You've joined Prophecy Talk for analysis of world events and unfolding Bible prophecy, brought to light by prophecy expert and author Erika Gray of www.erikagray.com.
Welcome, folks, to Prophecy Talk. And it's here you come for real Bible prophecy news and analysis. And tonight, we're going to talk about another major piece that is unfolding on the geopolitical landscape, and that is the rise of the King of the South. So with all of our things that are falling into place of the prophetic forecast, this adds one more, and it's one more piece that we knew that we must see unfold, and it has begun to unfold. Now, who is the King of the South? Before I go to the King of the South, I'd like to mention that Jesus referenced the Queen of the South in 2 of the Gospels, and the exact citations are in Matthew 12:42 and Luke 11:31. And when he referred to the Queen of the South, he was referring to the Queen of Sheba, who went and visited Solomon because she had heard of Solomon's wisdom, this famous queen in the Old Testament. And it is thought that she came from Ethiopia, that the area was Ethiopia. So we know that when Jesus is referring to the Queen of the South, we can figure that the King of the South is most likely Ethiopia or one of the African nations. We don't know exactly if it's one or it can be several of the nations. So we know that in Daniel 11, and I will give you the exact citation, we see that in Daniel 11:40, at the time of the end, the King of the South shall attack him. This is the Antichrist. And the King of the North shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. So we see this King of the South in the end. And there are other passages above this that talk about the King of the South. Some of them are dealing with ancient history, but some of them are actually referring to the Antichrist as well. And we know that the King of the South is not Egypt because we see Egypt mentioned specifically down in verse 43. So let's look at what's happening in Africa, since we know that it's going to be possibly one or several of the African nations that this is referring to. Well, first of all, let me mention to you that Africa's economy has been growing, that several countries within Africa have been experiencing economic growth. So where Africa was thought of as a very depressed nation, a very third world, underdeveloped, they're now showing signs of economic growth. And we know that the King of the South is in league with the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is going to come from the European Union. And what was just in the news today, but an agreement with the European Union and Africa, the EU-African Union ministerial meeting. And it is about peace, security, and economic investment of the European Union into Africa, because the idea is that if Africa is built up and the EU can help build Africa, they won't be then having this migrant crisis and migrants people looking to flee Africa for Europe, because they'll then want to stay in their own countries. And folks, this totally, completely aligns with the prophetic forecast in that we can see the correlation, and we know that the Africa, the King of the South that is described, has some strength. to be able to come at the Antichrist at the time of the end. So this is an exciting piece of Bible prophecy news, and I would venture to say that no other prophecy channel is covering this right now, has found this in the news, and is now giving this to you. But this is a very exciting piece because we cannot ignore those passages in Daniel of those battles that the Antichrist encounters at the time of the end and determine who those nations are. So I hope I have answered Zayat Wet's question on who is the king of the south. If anyone has any questions or comments, I will give you about a minute to come on, because I will be back in another 15 minutes with another broadcast. There will be 3 separate broadcasts on 3 different topics for tonight, because it was an eventful day in the news in the area of unfolding prophecy. And I especially wanted to highlight this meeting that took place between the European Union and Africa, and what is now happening on the African continent to lend to the fulfillment of this passage that we see in the book of Daniel. And it does not look as if anyone has any comments or questions. I hope you found this informative. Meanwhile, for more on end-time Bible prophecy, check out my books. And if you don't want to purchase a book, my books are also for free. And until the next show, hopefully you will stay tuned, and God bless.